Welcome to Inspire, Innovate, and Ignite Conversations That Count. And tonight we're going to be speaking about gifts of the highly sensitive person. So, most of you may know that there is a certain part of the population, that is highly sensitive, and that equates to about 15 to 20% of people are highly sensitive. And so, what does that really mean? Well, we're going to have a conversation about that with our lovely experts here tonight, and I'd like to introduce you. So I am not going in any particular order, but we're going to start with Bronwyn Jane. And Bronwyn is a compassionate and grounded international psychic medium and spiritual coach, empowering people with open hearts through an authentic connection to spirit. Bronwyn provides heartfelt readings and powerful coaching to illuminate your pathway. Bronwyn talks to dead people, and her passion is to teach others about the unseen world. Such an important thing, Bronwyn. So glad to have you with us. And then we have our beautiful Jennifer Regular. And Jennifer Regular is the transformational author of Embrace Your Power, a healing journey of self-discovery, and a soul-centered empowerment coach at Lighting the Path, where she aligns visionaries with their passion and their mission to focus on the difference they want to make in the world and experience deep life satisfaction. Such an important gift that you give to everyone, Jennifer. And Sue Rummick, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Sue is a life coach and specializes in overwhelm management strategies for the highly sensitive person. An HSP herself, Sue has been a professional life coach for 15 years, working with entrepreneurs and their families to help make sensitivity a gift and strength. So today we are going to talk a little bit about some of the things that are superpowers for the highly sensitive person out there. And I'd like to start the conversation with talking about confidence in communication that a highly sensitive person has. They tend to have more confidence in the way that they communicate because they're very able to have a certain way of articulating the needs of others as well as what is happening in particular situations. So that was my first opening question to all of you, is to talk about what you see as the specific skills and superpowers that a highly sensitive person can use and contribute to their communication skills. So I'd like to open that up with Sue. If you could please give me your thoughts on what that means to you and what you see are the particular gifts that a highly sensitive person has in regards to communication. If you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, I just unmuted. It's been my experience. I've been working with highly sensitive people and empaths for 15 years, as you said. And what I've noticed is that there's a certain science involved in being a highly sensitive person. It's brain science. It's not something that we just make up. There's quantum energy theory that comes into a quantum energy wave. And the way people think and how those thoughts are received by the highly sensitive person tends to tell them whether or not that person is safe to talk to or unsafe to talk to, is hostile, is happy, is sad, is in pain. And so the skills that an HSP brings to the conversation is their ability to read what a person needs without that person actually saying it out loud. Now, the problem is when the HSP doesn't really understand how to use what they read. A lot of times HSPs and empaths believe that what they pick up from other people is their own anxiety or their own fear, their own pain, and they get stuck in that. And then they feel less than, they feel broken. When in fact, what they're really doing is reading somebody else's need, and they haven't come to the place yet where they can ask, is it mine or is it somebody else's? So most HSPs and empaths, once they learn the skills of how to read and understand what they're picking up from other people, then they become that empowered, gifted person. And for some people, they have it naturally. They figured it out. They move on through it. For others, they get stuck for a while until either they figure it out themselves or somebody shows them how. So that's my long version.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. So what I hear you saying is most people that are highly sensitive, sometimes they don't quite have all of that figured out. And so they might not equate what they feel, what they sense in creating it as a superpower. It's sort of like they see it more as something as a detriment, and they haven't quite figured out that switch yet. That's exactly what you mean, right?
Once they learn how to use their skills, then they really absolutely rocket to the front of whatever it is that they're doing. And it's done with such ease and grace once they know how to use what they've got.
Right. In that embracement of it, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
So before we go on, thank you so much, Sue. That was a beautiful explanation. And I would like to continue on with Bronwyn and Jennifer, but first I'd like to introduce Vanessa Ray, who has joined us as our fourth expert. Thank you, Vanessa, for joining us. And I'm just going to read an introduction to Vanessa so that everyone knows Vanessa's background. So
thank you. I want to also just apologize for being late. Thank you for graciously letting me in. I appreciate it.
Of course. No, we're happy to have you here. Thank you. Vanessa Ray is truly a healing and creative arts Renaissance woman with a deep mission to serve the light that is the essence of us all. As a confidence coach, teacher, bereavement doula, healer, speaker, intuitive, mystic, and sacred sound singer, she embraces what it is to be a dynamic, embodied woman. She helps women and girls liberate themselves by ending the battle, struggle, and torment with food. Their bodies and themselves, she guides them on a deep, sacred, profound, and even pleasurable journey to their empowered embodiment of confidence and comfort, liberation and light, and beauty and peace with their bodies and in their lives. She has her music degree from Mills College and has been leading vocal exploration workshops and lessons since 2007. As a longtime performer of sacred sound, she has a rich and eclectic history as a singer and performer. She guides people to discover and embrace their true voice in every sense. Start living your best life by joining. Oops, sorry, I went on and read something else. So my apologies there. So I'd like to get back to our question. And Vanessa, so we were talking about the superpowers that highly sensitive people do hold, yet they don't always necessarily see them as superpowers right away. So I thought it would be great to kind of highlight these positive aspects of a highly sensitive person. So the first question is the confidence that a highly sensitive person can have in communication, and what skills do each of the experts see as a way to achieve that superpower standard for themselves in communication. So I'd like to move on to Bronwyn. Would you like to answer that kind of mixed sort of question I've just given you on communication?
For sure. And mine is, I'm following on from Sue, it is that awareness too that they need to have about the energy that they're sensing. So what I've noticed with highly sensitive people is sometimes as we grow, there's been events within our life that make us doubt what we're feeling or what we experience. And so that can create this situation where we don't realize it's a superpower, we'll shut it down because all these people have projected at us and told us a whole heap of things, and we take them on as our own. And so once we move past that and we understand that that's them, not us, and sometimes we need assistance with that, that the pro tip really is for people, highly sensitive people, is to go, okay, how did I feel before I came near this person? Was I feeling what I'm feeling, whether it be emotional or physical? Was I feeling this before I came near them? And then they know if it's theirs or not. And if it's not, they can just put that to a side, or they can use it. So if they use it, that's where they, tapping into what Sue said, is to go, okay, I can now go that this person's feeling a particular way. And so then I can find the words that are required to be able to maneuver through this encounter. And sometimes those words are like, this is not my person, I need to get myself out of here because they're going to give me a hard time. Or this is my person, I can be really authentic, I can be myself, because that's the other important key, is for highly sensitive people to feel comfortable, is to be able to discern, is this my person, is this not, and can I show up and be authentic? And once they can step into that superpower of I can be authentic, I can be myself, it's safe, because all these things happen, it's safe, then they can be honest, and then they can really, open up, help, heal, do whatever is required for the person that they're encountering. So there's a whole heap of things that occur really quickly once they work out, is what I'm feeling mine or not? And then they can process things, because they do process things very fast, process things really fast to then go through this system. And then they decide how they interact with who they're interacting with. So it is a superpower, but we need to make sure that we have to own if it's ours or not, what we're feeling. And that's why I say the pro tip really, really simply is when you go near someone, how did I feel before I went near them? To just pause and do that. And then you can work out everything else really fast.
I love that discernment tool that you're describing, to just put it into two different columns of, it was I feeling this way before I interacted, and how do I feel now, to see where you really stand. I love that description of how to discern in that way, so that you can really see where you are. I think that's one of the things that can be difficult as a highly sensitive person, is you sometimes don't know where those lines are at.
And it's about keeping it simple too, because we can make it really complicated, and we can. But if we're starting out, or depending on our age, because sometimes if we're a young person, we need to make it really, really simple. And it's pretty much, how did I feel before I came near this person?
Yes, that's fantastic. Thank you. Really good advice. I'd like to move on to Jennifer. Jennifer Regular, would you like to answer that question around?
Sure, I will. And just that it was interesting when you mentioned about confidence in communication, because that wasn't me in the beginning, when I wasn't yet aware of what was different about me and being an empath and a highly sensitive person. It was difficult to try to explain things, for example, because I had this clear cognizance, just this clear knowing about things that, you just know what you know, but you don't know how you know. And so how do you explain that to someone for what you know about them, right? And being that blind side or having that clarity, it creates some tension. And sometimes people feel a little intimidated that you can see right through them or read their minds, or, pick up on things they might not necessarily be aware of. And so learning how to communicate, what is, like Sue had mentioned too, about a skill that we develop. Right. And also learning about our gifts. Like when I started having these different experiences and noticing the differences between myself and my peers 40 years ago, the internet wasn't out yet. So it's not something I could Google, so I read a lot of books and trying to understand and talking with people and also talking with my spirit guides about what was happening and what was going on. And as I became better able to understand my gifts and then fully accept them was the next thing, then it became a little more easy to share what I knew without getting so much into my head. It was important to be in my heart and be with my inner guidance and understanding what my inner guidance was telling me and how to be able to express that. So it came from more soul in my heart than through my head. And now I talk about it as soul streaming. So now the confidence has been built, and it's still a work in progress, believe me. I know I said a few ums just in this because I'm thinking about it. But if I just let go and just allow the answers to come, then I'm more relaxed. I settle into my center and calm myself and come back into my heart and express from that space. Then it's like soul streaming is what I call it. So, I have live stream on the internet now, and it's broadcasting everywhere, but our soul and our guidance is also broadcasting all the time. And so being able to bring that through, filtering that through our way of communicating with the world, that's how we can share with others and be able to communicate from a more connected voice. So connected with ourselves and our gifts, and also connecting with the other person and being able to connect with them on a soul to soul level and being able to share that. And also knowing some boundaries around that too. We don't have to share everything that we may see and feel. We don't have to be on all the time either, because that can be really overwhelming for a highly sensitive person to be on all the time and have, that constant stimulation coming in. So it's important practice to have some boundaries about whether someone would like you to share or you're invited to share, and being able to communicate with some tact too, because we may be seeing things that another person's not aware of yet. And instead of them feeling scared or intimidated, overwhelmed by that, then to speak about it in a gentle way, a reassuring way, and having that self-compassion and the compassion for others, even though we know they don't, and we don't want to overpower them in that sense. You know what I'm saying? So we want to be able to connect on a soul to soul level, but that we're on an equal level too. There's no power over anyone. We're just sharing some insights, for example, is how I see that communication too, is through insight and really feeling and knowing and being able to share that in a tactful and compassionate way, if it's okay with the other person.
I love that. I love that you call it soul streaming, first of all, because it's like that opening of the heart, and it's almost it's a channeling, right? Is what I'm hearing you say. And I think there's a lot that you can pack into that beautiful statement around becoming a filter, in a sense, as you're soul streaming, because you are looking at several different things as you are communicating. You're checking, I'm just kind of mirroring back what I heard. You're checking whether you've been invited to communicate certain things. You're coming in through your heart. You're allowing, so it's a much more relaxed and an easier way of communicating. Yet you're still engaging and gauging. Does that sound accurate to you about what you were communicating? Because that's how I interpret what you said. It seems like there's so many different things going on, and I think that that's what is such a superpower around communication for highly sensitives, that you've all been
Yes.
sharing as we've gone around, that we highly sensitive people are able to do all those things at the same time.
Yes, like Bronwyn mentioned about kind of fast tracking all that information and absorbing it really quickly and processing it and translating it. And then how do we share that in a way that the other person can understand and take in and absorb and feel connected? Yeah.
Yes, gorgeous, great, thank you so much. And Vanessa, I'd like to give you the opportunity as well to answer my very complicated kind of question around communication and how you see that for a highly sensitive person.
Yeah, thank you. So in everyone's share already, I've learned things and resonated and recognized things. I know for myself, I was that highly sensitive person that didn't know what was happening or why things seemed different or so hard. And it reminded me of, what I heard Sue say, about like not knowing how to first deal with it and use it best. And then eventually we learn, as I did after many kind of painful things, that how impeccable like my self-care has had to be, so that it's turned into a gift that works for me and that then can help others as well. In communication, when I'm taking good care of myself, I feel like I'm able to trust my instinct. And as Bronwyn mentioned when she was talking about boundaries, that I've really, part of that self-care is these boundaries, these energetic boundaries of not them versus me, but more of a like, where does the honoring and the respect need to be? What is right? What is safe? What is best for everyone in the moment? And it feels like a very instinctual thing that I don't even really understand. I guess it's just energetic. I don't understand, where this kind of communication magic comes from. But it's something that I can think people can feel, of knowing what someone might need. And discerning, again, using that word, discerning not just if it's theirs or mine, but if it's coming from my fear or insecurity, if it's coming from the camp basically of my projection or the camp of my knowing. Is this something that I know, even if I can't explain it or I don't know how I know it, and whether it's about me or it's about them? Is this my knowing or is this my head or my fear or my projection? And personally, I'm getting more interested in developing the ability of being claircognizant. And I want to practice with this thing that I'm feeling, what would it be like if I shared it with this person? How right on is it for them? That type of thing. There's some tricky situations that I'm in sometimes doing bereavement doula work, where I go in and help a mom who's losing her baby or has just lost her baby. And it's such a situation where there really aren't words, that no words you can say will be the words that will make something better. But there's a way of energetically reading the room and feeling what needs to happen here. What word, if there is a perfect word, what is it? If there is a perfect silence or a perfect stance, what is the way to be? And to take what Jennifer said, that soul streaming, which I've never heard that term before. That's great. How do I just be this? Not even go into thinking of who do I need to be, but like just having the sensitivity to, like water, like let me just become this as a mode of communication, even if it's without words. Does that make sense?
Oh yes, I think that's beautiful. Beautifully
Oh,
described. I mean, what better role for someone who's highly sensitive, to be able to command that energetic field and communicate on a whole different silent, quote unquote, silent level. So I love that. I would like to ask you a little bit more about the self-care piece that you mentioned in the beginning, because I think that from what I've heard, everything that you've said, in the way that it helps communication, the self-care is a piece that is important for a highly sensitive person. And what are some of the ways that that has helped you or the clients that you serve?
yeah. So That's a good question. So for me, I need some alone time, like need daily, and ideally a couple hours. Um, I need some quiet time. I need some non-stimulus time, like no sound. Probably could really use being in nature a lot more. I'm a little out of discipline in getting myself there. But I like as outgoing of a person as I am, I have a hard time with like lots of loud sounds, too many people, not too many, but like a lot of people feel like too many people for me. I just need alone time. I need quiet time. And I think I need what a lot of people call downtime, which is I have to kind of force myself to get because I manage a lot in my life, but I need to have time where it's just space, it's just spaciousness, and it's just quiet. And I honestly, I don't function well if I don't get it. I also have to do a lot of self-care with my diet, with my thinking. It feels like in a lot of areas of my life, I paid close attention to what I see and take in just because it might really affect me, like the news or violence or hearing, without sticking my head in the sand and totally avoiding some of the things that are going on in the country and in the world. But I don't really need to know the details. Otherwise, I will have like a physical reaction sometimes. I get like really nauseous. So yeah, I just kind of know the stuff that's mine to deal with. That's kind of, reminding me of like the boundaries and stuff. It's like I have a pretty good understanding, and it's a continual growth of what are where's my lane? My lane is like maybe a lighter lane. I mean, obviously some of the work I do is really, really heavy, but even there, it just feels like I do this a little bit. And when I can't do it because I can't carry it or it's not good for me, then I don't do it. So I try to be really respectful and honoring of like all of those. I don't see boundaries again like as a wall. I just see it as like, here's a thing for me to respect. It's telling me what's good for me, and when I don't listen, then I have those consequences, and I might not like those.
Yes, thank you so much. I really enjoyed your explanation around self-care and setting the boundaries and making that distinction of boundaries not necessarily being about other people, really more or less being about yourself and what's good for you and not good for you.
Well, and everything that's best for me is going to be best for everyone else, in that I am a better mom, I am a better coach, I am a better panelist, like I'm just a better friend. I truly believe that what's good is good for all. Like true goodness is good for all. And me having boundaries will teach other people in my life, like, oh, maybe I need boundaries. Oh, maybe this is in my best interest as well.
Right. Yes, that's great. Thank you so much.
Sure,
I'd like to open that question up about self-care to the rest of you as well, because I know you all have like wonderful tips and expressions of how we can care for ourselves best as highly sensitive people. So Sue, I'd like to ask you where self-care comes in for the highly sensitive person and people that you work with.
Okay, I'm unmuted. So listening to Vanessa, thank you so much for opening up this whole area for what the highly sensitive person, the empath, needs in order to regenerate after a day at work. And the work that you do is incredibly emotionally, spiritually, physically taxing. And what I find is that many healers have the same needs as yours, which is self-isolation, self-care, very strong boundaries, taking time away, going out into nature. These are all wonderful self-cares. These are the everyday things that empaths and HSPs need to do in order to keep themselves regulated, grounded, and held together. Now, there's another piece to this as well. Energetically, the way that the human body, all of you who do this work know this, we all have shielding outside our body that picks up on, it's like a sensory network that is connected to our brains, to our amygdalas, to our fight, flight, survival centers. And I bring this into every conversation. I'm sorry if it's boring, but it's true. This sensory network that's outside our bodies is electrical. It picks up on the thought waves, the emotions, the needs, the physical pain of, and the joys and the happiness and all the good things too, of all the people around us. Now, what Vanessa's talking about is that the work that she does overwhelms her sensory network, and her amygdala, limbic brain system says, uh-oh, she is in danger of shutting down. She's in danger of becoming overwhelmed, of imploding. And so we need to let her know that she has to go into isolation in order to recover and be ready to face the next day. What I've learned is that when my clients learn how to work with their limbic brain system, talk to it. It's a computer app. It's part of that brain computer survival system that we, all human beings from the beginning of time, all animals, all plants are born with in order to keep us in survival mode so that we survive to live another day, procreate and have more children and carry on as a species. So when we learn the body language of our survival system, in other words, Vanessa is dealing with a mom who has in the process of losing a baby or has lost a baby. And as she said, there are no words. That mother's vibrational need, her grief, her fear, whatever, is washing over and through Vanessa. Vanessa's sensory network is saying danger, danger, danger. And she needs to protect herself, which is part of it is shutting down. Part of it is still doing the work that she needs to do. At the end of the day, she needs to go back and repair her sensory network because it's been breached. It's got gaps and rips and tears and thin spots. And she needs to know how to do the patching on it and how to re-energize it with the natural electricity that is part of her being, her essence. So part of our self-care is learning about how the brain works with that survival system and how to speak to it, how to negotiate, reprogram it for the boundaries that she's talking about so that your survival system actually works on autopilot on your behalf, sending out those very calming, gentle, healing messages to other people where you don't have to say the words, at the same time, giving you space to step back so that you can do the work that you need to do in real time by taking specific action to help them. Now, it's not just the healers like Vanessa, it's Bronwyn, who also deals with the spirit world and the living world, where the spirit person has needs and wants that need to be heard and come through as energetic vibration as well. And she's negotiating between spirit and live person to bring the messages through in a way that's constructive for all, but don't get stuck in her body either. So for her, it's a matter of how she programs her survival network, her brain, to manage all that incoming interworldly information and vibration as well. It's a conversation that we have with our survival system, with our limbic brain system, to teach it, to negotiate with it so that its job is to keep us safe. Its job is to shut us down and make us scared so that we will step away from a dangerous situation and go find a safe place to be. It's also about communicating our needs, our boundaries. So that's what your limbic brain system is all about. And it's set up as a computer app. And it's our job, once we know that that exists, it's our job to learn its language. Its language is primitive. It's not thought first. It's body sensation first. So a split second before you have a thought about what's going on, you'll have some kind of body sensation. And what Bronwyn was saying is you feel stuff from other people and you go, well, is that mine? Did I feel this way before I was in this person's presence? And that's the first question that I teach people as well, is you ask your limbic brain system, is this mine? You ask your body, is this mine? You don't let your intellect answer, you let your body answer. And it answers, like Jennifer says, through your heart. You get a very strong knowing in your heart and your body. So I think I've talked enough. I think it's time for somebody else to talk. I just got caught a picture of Jeanette, just that. I could talk forever. Sorry,
No,
please.
No, please. That's very fascinating because it's so true to listen to your body first, hear what, then it goes into your mind system. And then you're making these determinations so that they become habitual and you don't have to think about them anymore. So like you were describing Bronwyn and Vanessa's work and also Jennifer's work. I mean, all of us, we all do this work, right?
We all do the same work. Yes.
Right. And so it's knowing those different specifics of them. So I love that explanation. It's really important that we incorporate that in our self-care as well as what I've taken from what you've said. And I think it's really important. I would like to just, yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to add that I started off as a channeler. And so what I got was from soul, from the universe, from the world, from the otherworldlies. I call them otherworldlies. And so I had to step back and say, well, is this mine or is this somebody else's? That was my first step. Then I started getting clients that were left brainers. They weren't the creative, spiritual type people that I am as well. And so they wanted the science. So I had to learn the science between what was going on in our brains, what was going on in our bodies, and how all that spiritual piece worked together with it. So it's a blending of all of that. So thank you for letting me say that.
Oh, yeah. No, thank you. Thank you so much. I would like to just let everyone know that we do have some people watching tonight. And for those of you who are listening in, welcome. Thank you for being here. And I invite you to ask questions in the chat box because we will be answering those questions. If you'd like to communicate and ask any of our lovely experts here, any questions that you have. So in the meantime, I'm going to move on and go on to Bronwyn about self-care. And I'd like to get your thoughts around self-care for a highly sensitive person as well.
So for me, self-care is about that mind, body, spirit. So I break it down into each component. And so for the mind, I like to make sure that we have that space. So like what Vanessa was talking about, needing that space, that silence, allowing it to even have that decompression that needs to occur. And that ties into some of the physical. So I know that for me, sleep, and whilst it's a challenge to have quality sleep, uninterrupted sleep, it is also exceptionally important because it allows for things to reset. So we can then manage the next components of the next day. So I'm really aware that I have to factor all these things together. They're not, whilst they're in separate silos, so to speak, they all interact. So I'm really aware for my body, there's certain foods that I have to eat, there's certain exercise that needs to occur, and for the reason. So I need to nourish the body, it needs to be clean, and the energy needs to be able to move through it quickly, fastly, not get blocked if it does, to be really aware of it, and how do I do that? So, movement, I have all these kind of practices that allow that we look after the physical, and because that all then ties into the soul, because if the physical's okay and it's moving how it should, energy's flowing how it should, it means that then the soul, I have space to nurture and give the time that the soul needs to really show up, be present, be here, and to do what it's supposed to do. So I look at that mind, body, soul self-care, and it's a daily practice. And I said some of it's really practical. It's like 7 to 9 hours sleep, drinking 2 to 3 liters of water for me a day, eating clean. So once again, so the body can function how it's supposed to. allowing space for my mind to decompress, to process what it needs to process it, then any emotions that we need to. So everything just flows through. So I have to set up my mind, body, soul connection so the energy can flow through, because that is just what I am, a conduit for energy. And it just needs to keep moving, so it doesn't get stuck and blocked. And if it gets stuck and blocked, then there's a whole lot of things that we have to be aware of. And pretty much like Sue said, like as someone that blends with energy, connects with all kinds of energy from all kinds of spaces, I'm really, really aware of, making sure that that whole energetic body that comes out of me, that what's stuck in it, what needs to be removed, what needs to be repaired. So there's all these kind of, I'm going to say kind of cool, magical things on a whole nother level that are less humanistic on a way, less grounded on a way, that are a little bit more energetic, that I really am really conscious of as a daily practice. And I know when it doesn't happen, don't feel balanced. There's a whole heap of other things that are warning signs when, something is off and I've neglected something. I put my priorities elsewhere into human life or other people's needs and not my own, and it's showing up in other ways in my life. And they're my cues to go, okay, what have I neglected? What have I not prioritized that I need to revisit? And I'll just go through, what was, did I do the exercise I need to do? Did I shift the energy? Have I slept properly? Has it been, ridiculous? Have I been interrupted in my sleep by, people that don't have bodies anymore, or other beings that come in and don't honor my sleeping boundaries? Because I have a whole heap of rules with sleep. With that, because my sleep is very different to probably a lot of other people's. So I have all these kind of things that I'll then stock take to go, okay, where did I go off track in my self-care? I need to just make that a priority, get myself centered again and get back in alignment.
That's really great when you mentioned that, knowing when you haven't done something, what the effects are. Because I think sometimes we don't think about how self-care truly affects us when we aren't engaged with it, and what that really brings about in our life until we start practicing it more and more and more. So I love that you brought that up, that you recognize when something is amiss, and then you can backtrack and look and see where it is and what you need to course correct on, and keeping your container clean.
Yeah, it's just about having a lot of awareness, getting that sort of, I'm going to say, that starting point, and then having awareness when we slip and move. Either, it's a pendulum, too far one way, too far the other. We've got to try and stay as much centered as we can, because otherwise we're just going to get a little bit off track and life is just going to get harder.
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much, Bronwyn. And Jennifer, I'd like to ask you the same question around self-care. And can you give us your insights?
Yeah, well, first I have to say, wow, what a panel of experts. Talk about that. So many amazing things about regulating our emotions and our energy and regenerating and knowing what our needs are, being even aware of what we need, that we need the downtime or time in nature, or turn off the news and have that quiet time, recognizing what it is that we need and making sure that we tend to that is so important. And it's not just self-care, it's soul care. And what I can add to that, I guess, is how the computer can affect us, right? There's so much electromagnetic energy that's coming through the computer. I'm looking at the blue light here as I'm looking at you. And, we don't know yet the effects of all of that electromagnetic energy coming at us and looking at that blue light most of the day. It's really important to be interacting with the natural world as well, whether you're HSP, empath or not. Interacting with the natural world is really important to stay grounded and centered and back in touch with life and living it and reconnecting with that wonder of it. And on our nervous system, taking in all of that stimulation from outside sources, our nervous system gets really out of whack. And really, our nervous systems aren't built to handle it all. So it is really important to engage in self-care and soul care practices and to really recognize what our needs are. And even setting up how many appointments on Zoom a day. I know that's really important for me, that there's only so much that I can handle, and making sure that, of course, we have to run our business. So having other tasks that are deeper work, I try to write whenever I can, not on a computer, just to have that analog in there. And we're using a different part of our brain when we're writing as opposed to being on the computer. But our nervous systems too need care. And so interacting with the world, but also some people use crystals, or I used to have a universal guard that I put on my computer. Now I actually have this. I don't know if you can see it. It's called a Safe Connect, and you can get them at to wear, or you can get them that you can use as a magnet or by your cell phone, or just have them around you. And it really helps to absorb all that extra electrical energy, and doesn't just zap it up that you have to, think about cleansing and clearing it all the time. It actually transmutes it into something that's useful for the body. Sue talked a lot about that, how our body is affected and our brain and our nervous system, right? So being able to protect us and take care of that way. And that's a passive thing. It's remembering to put it on or put it on your computer. I haven't even worn a watch since I was a child, like so many years ago, because I couldn't handle it. It would make my mind crazy. Like I was overthinking, it would spin. It was amazing how much electricity from other things around us can affect the way we think and the way we feel, and have an effect in our nervous system as well. So around my bed, for example, I can't keep anything plugged in for the same reason, or anything that's plugged in on me, like a heating pad. Can't do it. It just really affects me physically and mentally. And so just being aware of those kind of things. And so instead by my bed, I'll have a plant, right, that's absorbing our energy and kind of helping us while we're sleeping, like Bronwyn mentioned about sleep. But we can set up our area with essential oils, or with soft music if you're into that, or quiet time, or having an eye pillow on my eyes and resting throughout the day I find is really important. And having a plant by your bed and letting that help absorb and replenish you and regenerate you throughout the day as well. And I have so many other ideas, but one simple reset you can do that takes 20 seconds. And you can do this, if you're in the washroom in a busy office environment, or just out and about and it's crazy in the city here sometimes. And sometimes I need to do this to reset. And it's just putting first your right hand over the top of your head in your crown, and then breathing in and out for 10 seconds. So usually it takes about 5 seconds to do an inhale and 5 seconds to do an exhale. So you can do that. Just breathe in and out once. And feel yourself settling back into your center. And then you do the same thing with the other hand over your head. And what this does is actually bringing your left and right brain hemispheres into balance. And then you can get into the flow. And if you can just take a second to notice how you felt just before you did that, and then how you felt after, and just see what 20 seconds of doing that can immediately have an impact on how you feel and just kind of settle you. And another thing you can do if you're into breathing exercises for the vagus nerve, which is the main area of the body that takes in all the sensory information for our nervous system, is you breathe in for 4, and then you have your tongue at the back of your teeth, of your upper teeth, hold it by the roof of your mouth for 7, holding it there, and then exhaling for 8. And that helps to rebalance your vagus nerve as well, and your nervous system, and help to regulate that. So those are some tools that might be helpful in also trying to regulate and regenerate. And maybe that can be helpful too.
I love that. Those are great tools, because they're in the moment when you start to feel yourself shift out of being, I guess, regulated is probably the best way to say it. You can actually get back to center by using tools like that. So thank you for sharing those. They're very valuable. I love the hand on your head. I immediately felt more grounded when I did that. So thank you. Great. And I also love that you brought up energy and all of the different technology that we're engaged in every day, and so much more now than we were 2-3 years ago. So thank you for that, Jennifer. I also would like to just reiterate a comment that Vanessa made that is really important, where she says that I think a lot of our clients, I know most of mine, are sensitive, but just don't know it. and having trouble because they aren't managing their sensitivity. And I think that's so important. And Sue also agrees with that, everything that Vanessa said there, because it is really true. A lot of times people don't recognize that the issues that they have to do with sensitivity, and they're not aware that they even are that sensitive. And we also have a comment from our audience that we're having such a beautiful and insightful conversation. And thank you so much for sharing that. It's important for all of our lovely experts here to know that other people are hearing what they're expressing with you and sharing their wisdom around this subject. So I'd like to move on to another superpower. Now, this has to do more with like career. And I think that since, everyone does something, whether it's if you are a stay-at-home mom, you still have a job, and you are doing all kinds of things. And so whether you're in corporate, or you are an entrepreneur, or you are a parent or a caregiver in some way, or any other numerous things that exist in the world, being part of a team as a highly sensitive person can be seen as a superpower. And I'd like to get your thoughts on that, because I believe that highly sensitive people have so many gifts that they can offer, especially when they're working in a team. So whether that's as an entrepreneur, as a parent, as a person who's in corporate life, I'd like to hear some of your input on superpowers that highly sensitive people have to offer in those types of arenas. So I would like to start with Vanessa, and we'll work our way around the table again. So Vanessa, can you give me your insights around teamwork with a highly sensitive person and what their superpowers could be?
Yeah. Well, I guess this makes me think about kind of something that I touched on earlier, which is having this knowing of what would be best. Not that I always get it right, of course I don't, but that this ability of what is needed right now. And am I willing to do that instead of maybe listen to my ego? Am I really in the flow of that flow, but also being able to see what other people's best attributes or what is most needed of them. So I'm thinking, for some reason, I'm thinking of, I have many different parts to my life. And I'm thinking of my daughter right now and our neighbor. And he's a little boy. And when I'm overhearing them play together and I can hear what he's doing, for instance, and he's acting a certain way and she's acting a certain way, and I'm in the other room, let's say, like overhearing what's going on with them, yet I can feel like, oh, he's acting this way. And I'll get like the instinct of like, it's because of this, maybe there's a lack, so he's overcompensating. And again, doesn't feel like a heady thing. It really feels like a knowing. And then I will know to talk to my daughter later. Hey, the nenext time, his name, it's the next time he says this, I think he might be saying that for this reason. What do you think? Just to help her think about it and to see like who she could be in support of him, or to not judge him, or, oh, if he's doing something that's really annoying to her, let's say, because I can hear her being annoyed, maybe even just saying something to her, because she's 11 and so she might not take direct communication well anymore. So I might have to say it in a very positively manipulated way. Which is like, hey, Violet, what do you think about when, just for his, I don't know why I feel the need to protect his name, but just in case he doesn't, just in case his mom's watching, I'm going to call him Bobby. So Violet, did you hear when Bobby said this? And then just leave this space for her to, because then with that space, she's going to fill it up with what she thinks. And so it's a way of being like a team member. And instead of going in and saying, when he does this, you do this, Because that's not going to go. I mean, that's not empowering for her. That's not using her creativity. That's not even learning anything about her. That's me coming in very top down, which, like I said, she's at 11 and a half and she's not so interested in as much. But for me to be the team member and be sensitive enough to go, okay, what I'm hearing is that Bobby has this need and it's coming out in this way. And my daughter's having this reaction. How again can I be like water and just like fill in and kind of promote? And there's kind of an agenda, but the agenda is that everyone's happy and everyone gets their needs met. So it's like a good agenda, you know? But that's like a way, and that for whatever reason, that idea popped into my mind, but that's a way that like I do some kind of team playing as a sensitive person. So I try to leave space, I try to lead, I try to open conversation, but I'm really tapping into what are the needs here? How do I need to be to facilitate people's needs?
Yes, I see that. What I hear you expressing is the ability that a highly sensitive person has in hearing something different that maybe other people don't hear. So,
and it's underneath the words. It's not the words. It's a very different, and it's not always, you know, a lot of times it's not even body language because I can't see them. It's a feeling of, I feel like this is what's happening, or I feel like I can see, not with my eyes, but I can see. Again, I experience it personally as a need, like what is wounded here that wants to be healed, what wants to come to the light, what needs love brought to it. How could I facilitate this?
Yes, and that's such an excellent point, I think, for highly sensitive people to recognize that what they hear is something that's important and can be useful to others.
And to know if I approach this from a non-sensitive place, I can screw it up. You know, if I go in and try to override their conversation, I don't know if it would screw it up, but it's definitely might not have the, like, you have to also be sensitive enough to know, like, what is the highest form of this communication here? Me coming in as the all-knowing mom is definitely not going to be as successful as being curious and leading and tending to it in a different way. So that's like a team player move, I would say, as a sensitive person.
Yes, I love that. Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you. It's really great. And Bronwyn, can I go ahead and move on to you next?
So for me, one of the superpowers of being part of a team when you're highly sensitive is it comes back to that reading the room, reading the people, and then assessing from there. So there's lots of wonderful opportunities to, even if we're not in a leadership role, to be able to guide and lead others by connecting to what do they need based on why we're together. So because when you think about it from business, we may be in a meeting, we're trying to achieve a certain objective, we may be just collaborating with something. So what do we need in this sense? And sometimes it's even about, I can really, as I'm sitting with a colleague, feel that this, you know, they may be lacking self-belief, how do I empower them through choosing some really beautiful words that I'm guided to share to get them to step forward to whatever they need to do, and encourage my colleague to see a part of them that they're not seeing. So as a sensitive person, just going through life, whether we're at work, we're at home, we're in relationships, we can heal, grow, and teach just by honoring what we feel and who we are and what we're sort of getting, whether it be picking it up through their energy, getting it through guidance, however it's coming into us, even if we're not quite sure how it's coming. It's like, I just know this and I don't know why I know it, but I just know it, and I know I need to tell this person X. I'm feeling a real push to say this. And if we're feeling that real push, we find the really nice words that are appropriate to do that. Because as sensitive people, if we embrace that we're sensitive and we embrace that this is who we are, our ripple effect that we can create on every day through just every interaction is phenomenal. Doesn't matter what the situation is. And to me, that's the whole point. Why else have this ability to be really sensitive and is except to share it in a way that's appropriate based on the situation that we're in. And we already know that because we've already discussed it, that we can assess that really quickly. And then this is what we do. And if we do it, enough of us do this on an everyday basis, think of the phenomenal ripple that occurs in every environment and with everyone that we encounter, and the change that occurs just naturally everywhere by just saying, I'm going to use these abilities to help Joe, which thinks that he's not great at something, but he really is. He just can't see it. And I'm going to encourage him to step towards that.
That's
and then
beautiful.
we change Joe's week, day, whatever, or even how he sees himself.
Right.
And then he can go and do that.
Yes. And like you were just saying, that ripple that Joe gets, Joe then passes that ripple on, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, that's just lovely. I think that there's so much that highly sensitive people, until they really get harnessed it, think that it's a hindrance rather than an actual superpower and gift. So thank you, Bronwyn. I love what you had to say around that. And I'd like to move on to Jennifer, since this is our last question. We're a little bit over. So Jennifer, I'd like to hear your thoughts, and then I'll move on to you, Sue.
Okay. Yeah, I think part of the gifts of being a highly sensitive person is being tuned in to what's really going on, or the person's feeling and emotions, and being able to use that. I remember when I was trialed in classrooms, so in elementary school, for example, later on, I was just so aware of people that were left out and alienated and isolated or lost. And later on in life, when I was working in social services, that got lost in the system, or when I was working with violent offenders, you just know there's more going on there, but no one would listen to them, right? And no one would hear them and see them. And I'm talking about on the soul level, right? Who they truly are at the core. And being an empath, we can tune into that, and we can listen, and we can connect, and we can help pull them out of the system that they're lost in, or help them feel like they belong because we've connected, or help them calm down. I worked with some of the most difficult people and it's just they're just wanting to be heard and seen. And when you can do that, and as an empath, we can do that telepathically, then it makes such a huge difference. Like, it changes the whole dynamic of the team, the environment, the institution, whatever it might be. And you wouldn't think it makes that much of a difference, but it does. And there's times too, like, we don't recognize grief in this culture, in Canada, very well. I mean, only 5 days off to grieve the death of your closest person. But I remember there was times I was managing a group, and we had been through so much together. There was someone who had died naturally, someone who had committed suicide on the property, and then teenagers who were witness to a friend of theirs accidentally shooting and killing one of their other friends. And then we just go on and work as if nothing's really happening. We acknowledge it, we cry, okay, we're done, let's get back to work. No, there's something, like we've been talking about, the energy and the environment and the feeling around that. It's like we can tune into that and help to invite conversation and feeling and speaking and sharing about that. And so taking a leadership role in a sense, and gathering people to support whatever's going on. How can we best support that? So there are ways to use our gifts that can have a huge impact on a person's well-being, on society's well-being, on the workplace's well-being, that I think shouldn't be ignored.
I love that. That is such a testament, I think, to the gifts that a highly sensitive person holds in being able to witness, even telepathically, like you said. So it doesn't necessarily have to be with words. that are spoken out loud, that just that connection and support that you give them, and in a witnessing moment is really important and special and inclusive. So thank you, Jennifer. Sue, can you please give us your thoughts around the highly sensitive person and teamwork?
I can. A lot of the people that I work with are professionals. They're entrepreneurs. They're upper and middle management in corporations. And one of the things that they have the most difficulty is, depending on their level, is how they witness, and here comes that word again, witness and validate their coworkers and the people, their reports, the reports that report to them and those that they report to. And a lot of times in meetings, I have a sense of people tend to shut down their voices because they feel that they are not going to be validated by the team, especially if they're in junior positions. And this is where an empathic leader can bring that themselves into the fore to say, who hasn't been heard yet? They're going to look around the room and say, so and so, what do you have to add? What do you have? What are you noticing that we might have missed? So bringing out and engaging as an empathic leader, bringing out and engaging other empaths on your team who might be what I call hidden empaths. They aren't aware that their abilities give them superpowers. So giving them a voice, giving people a voice in any situation. And you can do that simply by saying, you can ask your own inner guidance, who haven't we heard from? What's the most important question I can ask to bring that person out? What haven't we heard? What can they offer? And so engaging people as empaths and leaders in a team, engaging more. It isn't bringing more of us into the group. It's bringing them more fully open into the group. So the group becomes more cohesive and there's more respect. There's more honoring of other people's boundaries. There's more empathy for those people who aren't very empathetic. It's not normal to them. It's showing them where empathy works in a group to make a group stronger and more cohesive and more successful. I'd like to close this comment with some statistics. May I do that just very quickly?
Yeah.
Okay. You had said 15% of the population, 15 to 20, are empaths. And that's only part of the picture. 15% are fully on, fully engaged, fully open empaths. And quite often, those are the ones who are most at risk of burnout from their gifts. If you go further, there's another statistic that says 30% of the professional populations, that's lawyers, doctors, accountants, entrepreneurs, business leaders, 30% of all of that group are empaths who don't know how to use their skills. Beyond that, those professionals have one skill that other people don't have. They're able to turn on and off their empath abilities, their HSP abilities, so that when they use them professionally in their professions, and then when they go home at night, they've turned them off. So like Bronwyn says, there is more self-care. And like Vanessa says, they don't have to self-isolate in order to regenerate. And as Jennifer said, they don't feel the need to connect as deeply on a soul level. So that's 30% of all professionals. There's another 20% of first responders who are empaths and HSPs. They don't necessarily bring out their skills of reading other people unless the situation is dire enough that they have no other resource other than to use their skills to help the people that they're trying to save. And the last one is the narcissists and the controlling people. Those are the strongest empaths in the world because their greatest skill is their ability to read the vulnerabilities of other people and turn those vulnerabilities towards their own agenda. So understanding where you are on that timeline of being an HSP or an empath gives you some idea of how to use your skills or how to protect yourself from people who might use them to control you in some way. That's my
Those are
take on it.
fascinating. Yeah, thank you for sharing those statistics. That's very interesting. I hadn't really thought of narcissists being highly empathetic, but yes, that makes complete sense.
They aren't empathetic. They're not empathetic.
Right. Yes.
They have
Thanks for the
incredible
correction.
skills to read other people's vulnerabilities.
Right.
They have no empathy.
There's a difference. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that answer, Sue. And there's so much to unpack with everything that all of you have shared. I want to really thank the experts here. They've all been hand chosen to be here today. And you've gotten some tremendous, wisdom and information and tips and tools from all of our experts. And so thank you so much for being here. It was an honor and a privilege to spend this time with you. So I'd like to turn this over to Sophia to end our lovely session today. And thank you for hanging in there with us and going over a little bit. And so that's it. Thanks.
That's fine. Well, I'd like to thank you, Josette, and of course, and definitely thank Sue and Bronwyn and Jennifer and Vanessa for joining us. It's really good. I've learnt lots too, being a empath and everything. I love all the different techniques, especially putting your hand on your head for both sides, balancing it out. It's really wonderful. Coming up tomorrow at this time tomorrow. Is Living Our Life with Astrology and Tarot is our next panel discussion, and then of course on Friday Sue will be back joining us as the facilitator of what are the 5 essential psycho-spiritual must-haves every woman must-haves every woman needs. Yes, sorry, got that a bit tongue-tied. We're seriously looking forward to those two. And of course, Sue is not only a wonderful empath trainer and has shared so much passion, but is also the host of our Life Force Activators Tribe. For anyone who's listening, do click on the links below and check that one out. And our wonderful facilitator, Josette, is the host of Gaining Self-Esteem Through Heart-Centered Values and the co-host of Finding Me, a beautiful tribe, two beautiful tribes, all to reconnect with our inner selves. So wonderful. And for anyone who would like to know more, again, click on the links in the comments, because you can join us. Join Sue's tribe, join Josette's tribe, join all of our tribes, just for $1. $1 Australian dollar. Try us out for 3 weeks, and then after that, it's just 15 Australian dollars a month. So do come and join us. We've got some wonderful good stuff happening. We've got a brand new tribe that's just coming up today. I haven't announced it yet, but it's very fun. So yes, wonderful. Really, seriously, thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see everyone tomorrow. And thank you, Bronwyn and Jennifer and Vanessa, and do stick around. And I'll say goodbye to our beautiful listeners and watchers, whether it's live or on the replay, and we'll see you sometime soon.